Aloha! This is Eagle News. I'm Alfred Esenes coming to you from Washington, D.C. Today is Saturday, October 22, 2022, here in America's capital. To start off today's program, we begin with news about our health. During the opening ceremony of this year's World Health Summit in Berlin, Germany, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres underscores the need to take care of people's physical and mental well-being if we want to live in better communities. Rosel Feria has the details.
In a video message, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres tells global leaders at the World Health Summit in Berlin, Germany, that physical and mental health are the foundation for peaceful, sustainable societies. Guterres warns that we live in a time of great risk and uncertainty. He mentions how poorly prepared the world was as demonstrated during the pandemic. The UN chief says women shoulder an increased burden of care in families and as frontline workers. He says many women have endured significant income reduction due to job losses and the absence of adequate social safety nets. Guterres says the pandemic and current world crisis have delayed the push for the Sustainable Development Agenda.
Along with the current food, energy and financial crisis, has set back efforts to reduce poverty and hunger and implement the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. To advance the Sustainable Development Goals, we must recalibrate multilateralism and strengthen global cooperation.
He says global health security and preparedness need to be strengthened through sustained political commitment and leadership. The UN chief calls on government to give priority to health. He also appeals to wealthier countries and international financial institutions, saying they need to support developing countries to make those crucial investments. Guterres says everyone needs inclusive, impartial, and equitable access to health services to deliver universal health coverage. He underscores the must to ensure mental health is not a neglected aspect of healthcare. Rosel Feria, Washington, D.C. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
On the sidelines of the World Health Summit, UNICEF and the WHO have been granted $5 million each to help 8 countries rebuild immunization systems against polio and measles. Jeff Sanidad reports.
The World Health Organization and UNICEF welcomes a $10 million funding agreement from the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center, or KS Relief. The health agencies will receive $5 million each in response to a call for emergency action to avert major polio and measles epidemics. The funding will benefit 8 countries, namely Somalia, Iraq, Sudan, Afghanistan, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Guinea, and Pakistan. The agreement was signed on the sidelines of the World Health Summit in Berlin. World Health Organization and UNICEF have urged countries to prioritize vaccination for children as they rebuild their immunization systems following major global immunization disruptions caused by COVID-19. The pandemic has left millions of vulnerable children at heightened risk of preventable childhood diseases, including polio and measles. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, here in the U.S., a health report shows there is racial disparity among those who get hospitalized because of the flu. The said report also reveals there are people who are less likely to get vaccinated against it. Carlo Valdez has more.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC Vital Signs report, reveals that Black, Hispanic, and American Indian Alaska Native adults here in the United States are more likely to be hospitalized with the flu. They are also less likely to be vaccinated against it. The report says flu vaccination coverage has been consistently lower among Black, Hispanic, American Indian, and Alaska Native adults since 2010. The health agency says Black, Hispanic, and American Indian Alaska Native adults were hospitalized with the flu at higher rates than white adults during most seasons from 2009 to 2022. Reasons for disparities in severe flu outcomes include lack of access to healthcare and insurance, missed opportunities, and distrust in vaccines. CDC says certain racial ethnic minority groups have higher rates of asthma, diabetes, obesity, and other chronic conditions. These increase the risk for serious flu complications. CDC says racism and prejudice as well are known to worsen inequalities. Carlo Valdez, Union, New Jersey, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And speaking of vaccinations, as we enter the colder months of this year, health officials are encouraging people to get vaccinated against the flu and COVID-19. In Pennsylvania, the campaign is on to get that shot. Myla Simbulan has more.
Fall is in Pennsylvania. It is a season loved by those who are into cooler weather, boots and leaves changing to beautiful shades of yellow, orange, and red. However, it is also the season for flu. Pennsylvania physician General Dr. Denise Johnson encourages residents to get their flu shot and COVID-19 vaccination boosters as we enter the flu season. This year, both the flu shot and nasal spray are available and recommended for those 6 months of age and older. The flu vaccine can often diminish the severity of symptoms a person might experience should they come down with the flu. The updated COVID-19 bivalent boosters are also available to provide protection against the original virus strain as well as the Omicron variant and its subvariants. It takes about 2 weeks for the antibodies from the vaccine to develop protection against infection. Getting the shot is a small but powerful action and will protect family, friends, and frontline healthcare workers. Both vaccines reduce the risk of illness, hospitalization, and death, and it is important to get both vaccines to protect against both viruses. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, says it is safe to get the flu and COVID-19 vaccines at the same time. Myla Simbulan, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Thanks for the report, Myla. The message is clear, folks. Get that booster shot. The sooner, the better. In other news, shipping giant UPS will have to pay $5.3 million in fines and commit to fixing recent hazardous waste violations across the country. Melissa Potes tells us more.
The United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, announces a settlement with United Parcel Service Incorporated, or UPS, to resolve violations of hazardous waste regulations. The violations occurred at more than 1,000 facilities across 45 states and the territory of Puerto Rico. The shipping and receiving company was cited with failure to make land disposal determinations and conduct proper on-site management of hazardous waste. UPS has 3 years to comply across 1,160 locations. It will also pay a civil penalty of $5.3 million. EPA says UPS generates hazardous waste regulated under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act when a package containing certain hazardous materials is damaged, as well as during day-to-day operations such as maintenance. The agency also discovered UPS facilities generated, accumulated, and offered for transport, treatment, and/or disposal of certain hazardous waste streams. These include ignitable, corrosive, and reactive substances, including acute hazardous wastes. EPA says UPS is addressing non-compliance and has started implementations at its facilities nationwide. The said violations are a stark contrast from 2 years ago, when in November 2020, EPA honored UPS with the Smart Way Excellence Award. The award recognizes top shipping and logistics company leaders for superior environmental performance. In an email, UPS spokesperson Lauren Spangler says the company has long-standing procedures in place for handling hazardous waste and are taking additional steps to further enhance its practices. Spangler says UPS will continue to work with agencies and authorities around the world to ensure the safety of its network and the well-being of its employees and the customers and communities it serves. Melissa Potas, Orlando, Florida, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In the Canadian province of Ontario, municipal elections are held every 4 years on the fourth Monday of October. This year, elections will be held this Monday. The City of Toronto joins the entire province in gearing up for exercising the right to choose their leaders. Joshua Santillana reports.
Toronto will hold its municipal election day this coming Monday, October 24th. In this election, Torontonians will be voting for their mayor, councillor, and school board trustee if eligible. There are currently 31 candidates running for mayor, including incumbent mayor John Tory, seeking for re-election. Advanced voting began on October 7th and ended October 14th. The advanced polls saw a 6.75% decrease on the voter turnout compared to the 2018 municipal elections. On October 24, Election Day, voting locations will be open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. To find more information about their ward, candidates, and voting locations, Torontonians can use the My Vote app. Voters can also use this app to download and print their voter information card and see a sample of their ballot. Voters are encouraged to bring their voter cards and one piece of government ID showing their name and current address to cast their ballot. 5 of the 31 mayoral candidates faced off in a final public debate Monday to make their pitch. John Tory, Gil Penalosa, Sarah Clemenhega, Stephen Punwasi, and Chloe Brown. You may find out more about their platform and campaigns by visiting their official websites. Joshua Santillana, Toronto, Ontario. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now let's hear from my friend Thomas I. Likeness on his thoughts about the latest news on this week's Correspondent at Large.
And now news and commentary from around the globe. Hardships, lots of them these days. So what is considered a hardship? Well, to a degree, it depends on where you live. Like, for example, the Horn of Africa, Kenya. In this country, 1 in 3 children suffers from acute malnutrition. Nearly 900,000 kids under the age of 5 suffer from life-threatening hunger. It's also known as severe wasting. Priyanka Chopra Jonas is with UNICEF. She says, it seems people have become desensitized to the situation.
To be able to see children that don't have access to food and that are dying because they haven't eaten for 4 or 5 days, and for families to accept that reality is heartbreaking, and that is a concern that should affect the global community in a big way.
An ongoing drought caused by climate change and the fallout from the pandemic have caused an alarming increase in hunger. In North America, that's a G7 country, a wealthy country, hunger still abounds, not to the same level, not even close, but it's there. In one of the poorest neighborhoods in Atlanta, Georgia, there's a supermarket that provides free food to people with no money. It's called the Grocery Spot. Now, this is not a food bank. It's a store. People can go in, they can shop for vegetables, frozen meals, other goods, pick what they want. Open 3 days a week. The rest of the time, store staff drive around the state picking up unsold goods that they can redistribute. The store operates on a pay-what-you-can honesty system, and for those without money, there's no charge. The store also raises funds on social media. So, who shops here? The manager, and he only goes by the name of Slugga, he says it could be anyone. Slugga says you just don't know people's stories.
You might come in, you'll meet somebody that's a contractor. You might come in, you might meet somebody that's a car dealer. Like, everybody has their own problem on how they can't afford the food due to the way everything's going skyrocket where you can't afford to live on basic necessities.
Slugga says the store serves 300 to 400 people a day. It's going to be a hard winter in Ukraine. You know, the war continues. Russia has destroyed nearly 40% of the country's electrical grid. In response, the government has pulled the plug, instituted rolling blackouts. They can last up to 4 hours. People have been told to keep everything charged, you know, your gadgets, your phones, whatever. Stock up on water, have plenty of blankets and warm socks. Use as little power as possible. Take a flashlight with you if you're going out walking at night. That's because street lighting is limited. That's what life will be like this winter in Ukraine. Businesses are being urged to limit screens and signage lights. So, how are people taking it? Most are pretty stoic about it. You know, they say they would rather sit in the cold with no water, no electricity, than be in Russia. You've got to wonder how politicians can come up with this stuff. In New Zealand, farmers protesting this week over a new tax. It's a tax on the gas emissions from their livestock. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern proudly announced the tax last week. She touts it as the world's first levy on animal emissions. Now, some perspective here. New Zealand is a country with a population of about 5 million people. Now, that figure is dwarfed by the livestock population, some 6 million cows and 26 million sheep. They all produce methane and nitrous oxide. It's a byproduct of munching on grass and feed. Ardern says the tax is needed to help the country meet its greenhouse gas targets. How a tax will reduce animal emissions is not clear. You know, the animals certainly are not going to pass any less gas. More likely, it'll just put some farmers out of business. The government's goal seems to be shifting farmers away from livestock to things like forestry, so-called carbon farming. This farmer, he's not impressed. Sounds like the end result will be fewer farmers, fewer animals, and more costly meat. I did some checking on Ardern's background. She did not grow up on a farm. I'll be back in 7 days. In the meantime, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness in the ensuing week. Thomas I. Likeness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now, it's no secret that Ladies Professional Golf Association players are a well-traveled bunch. They tour around the world in search of their next big tournament and win. Having competed at some of the world's most prestigious golf courses and visiting the cities and countries they're located in, LPGA players share their top travel destination picks. In Somis in Southern California, we have Alan and Eva Basilyahe for this week's EBC Sports International.
We're only about a month away from the end of the LPGA season, and as usual, the tour has brought these professional golfers around the world.
So who better to ask than these ladies where on the planet they'd recommend to pay a visit to?
I'm from Okinawa, so I want to recommend Okinawa.
Definitely my hometown, China. I'm going to be biased. Going to be Malaysia.
Actually, Canada.
Of course, Thailand, I guess.
My favorite place to go is Australia, actually.
ก็คิดว่าก็อยากเชิญชวนทุกคนไปเมืองไทยอะค่ะก็เมืองไทยก็เป็นแบบก็เป็นประเทศของแหวนเองแล้วก็แบบก็แหวนก็แบบชอบที่จะอยู่ในไทยอะไรเงี้ยค่ะก็อยากเชิญชวนแบบมีทั้งแบบทะเลทั้งแบบภูเขาสวยๆอะไรเงี้ยก็มีหลายอย่างในประเทศไทยค่ะ
Since you're from Thailand and our country is very beautiful, so she would recommend definitely going to Thailand because we got ocean, mountain, and every activities that you probably can find in Thailand.
Okinawa is like Hawaii, kind of Hawaii, and nice ocean, blue sky, and people very nice, kindful.
I was just awesome country, and then the people are really nice, great food, and just a lot of cultures.
Yeah, Kuala Lumpur, you will not hate it. I mean, it's a cool city, beautiful nightlife, great architecture in the city.
It's just so beautiful. It's very similar to the US.
It's just the people are great. It's kind of a combination between Britain and America, I'd say. It's just really good vibes, and it's always summertime when we go there.
The cities and countries I want to visit, I haven't even been to yet. I really want to visit Iceland and Australia.
Guess I better work on my golf game if I want to travel the globe.
Me too. Eva and Alan, Somis, California, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
As always, before we let you go, here's our photo of the week by Jean Chris B. Arce. Look at this parade of hot air balloons in Middletown, New York. Such a treat for our eyes. Thanks, Jean. Thank you very much all for joining us again. And it's been a personal honor and pleasure to be with you in this broadcast. A quick shout out to my family and friends there in Hawaii and the Pacific. If there are stories or topics you want us to share with you, just comment below. View, like, share our other shows such as City Limits with Alan Basilyahe, Connected with Dr. David, Take a Seat and Join Us with Inequities, Plate Date with Mike Hudson and Friends, plus Journey, Stories of Filipinos in Canada with Kathleen Cruz. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I am Alfred Asenas. We live in extraordinary times. Happy weekend, everyone. Aloha.